Sorry for some of those hiccups or technical delays. We'll see if it regulates and gets corrected here. But I think we have at least worth identifying under this call to order. Catherine Weil, would you mind introducing yourself if you're ever here okay, for those that don't recall from your prior time at SEDA COG?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. This is Catherine Wild with Michael Baker International. As Steve said, I used to be a SEDA COG employee. If I haven't met you before, I think it's been about 3 or 4 years now. I'm helping out Brian Funkhauser on the active transportation plan, so I will be sharing some more information on that, I believe, further along in the agenda. And I look forward to working with everybody again.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. Glad to have you. And yep, we look forward to that on item J then of our agenda, some of the updates for what we're doing with the active transportation plan and relying on the expertise there from Michael Baker. Anyone else is outside of Bob, I think we can handle when we get to your item a little bit later on, Bob Benta. Anybody else that would like to introduce themselves? Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Jeff Eisman from PA Silk and Transportation Alliance. So are we actually in public comment now, Steve, or should I wait?
I'll just do one quick other announcement, kind of staffing wise, and then we'll definitely receive that under public forum. I want to note that we have Bridget Kinneman joining us here virtually. She is our GIS intern. Glad to have her on board and adding to our abilities since mid-July. She started up. She's a Lewisburg native and recent George Washington University graduate. So thanks, Bridget, for joining us. And if you wanted to say anything, feel free, or if you just wanted to wave, that's fine as well. Okay, appreciate that. Thanks for joining, Bridget. And also our new employee, if you recall, we had advertised for a senior transportation planner. She will be starting up August 17th. So at the October meeting, you'll have a chance to meet her and we'll share announcements in the near future about that. So we're glad for that. And we're glad to have Dawn here. If you recall last time, kind of retirement / now semi-retirement. So Dawn Keel is with us as well now, but has moved in, transitioned to part-time work on behalf of the MPO. So I wanted to give those kind of quick announcements first off, kind of staffing wise and other larger MPO support. So with that being handled, please, Jeff, feel free to go ahead, public forum.
Sure, thanks. Just mention a couple of things. Number of you are familiar with the group that we support, the PA Transportation Alliance. Back in June, unfortunately, our chair, John Tegg from Pittsburgh, had passed unexpectedly. So our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, August 18th at 1 o'clock. That's a slight adjustment from we used to do the bi-monthly, which we will still do every other month on the third Tuesday, but it'll be 1 o'clock instead of 1:30. So we'll be sending something out. I know Steve's on our email list. He can share it with others if you have an interest, or I'll be on till 11:30 if you want to send me a message in the chat. Just a couple of things so everyone knows we got a state budget passed. Unfortunately, there was nothing in there for sustainable public transit funding or paratransit for some of the shared ride issues. PennDOT, the gap is basically between 70 and 80 million a year for funding. I think last year they were able to use some gaming funds. This year, I'm not clear on what they're doing to address that. There was also a hearing back in June on e-scooters. There are a few bills on that. I can pop those in the chat. It was on House Bill 1633 by Rep. Kincaid from Allegheny County, and they took some testimony on that. However, they did not move the bill. Right now, I'm not hearing that any of the bills are going to get passed. So it's a pretty tight session until the end of the year, and then we're in what's called sine die. It's the end of legislative session. Usually, unless a bill is literally on the finish line, usually not much gets done in that period. So we'll see. There's also the issue of skill games, which some have, there's been discussion whether they use that for public transit or for senior programs, which would include lottery funded shared ride. That's something else to watch. The PA court had made a ruling back in June, where they gave the legislature 120 days to come up with a way to deal with some of the skill games in terms of legislation, what they would do. Right now, there's nothing there yet. And last, I did want to mention the federal transportation reauthorization, HR 8850, the Ready 250 Act. I think I saw something in the materials on that there were a lot of funds that Pennsylvania got in 2021 and since then for the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, which includes funding for public transit, like some of the 5310 vehicles, Amtrak, and originally they also had some rural broadband. I don't think the rural broadband is in the latest version. Maybe that changes. We'll see. But that's something else to watch, and I'll be on later on if anyone has any questions. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Any other kind of public forum business, or certainly things can wait till the interest items at the end, but anything that's not on the agenda folks would like to raise at this time? Okay, hearing none, we would look to get a motion to approve the minutes to begin on page 3. If you've had a chance to take a look at those, and if there's any comments, certainly we can entertain those revisions, but otherwise we look for a motion to approve. Lincoln, thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Bob Stout, I'll second.
Bob, thank you for the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you. Next, we are up to item D. This is our normal TIP administrative modifications and amendments. We do have one amendment beginning on page 9 of your packet. And so, Mark Schultz, please, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you for these.
Hey, Steve, this is Mark Schultz. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, thanks. I think our network here is okay, but I know a couple of you had to dial in. I'm sorry for some of those difficulties you've been having. Or sometimes you have to do like a reboot or a restart, I guess, if the computer access over the links isn't working, but we can hear you just fine. Thanks, Mark.
Great. So trying to get to the packet here now. So scrolling down through, you want to start with the amendment?
Yes, yeah, the amendment on page 9, we'll take that vote. And then after approving that, we'll just segue into your administrative modifications that do not require a vote, just informational.
Okay, great. So the amendment that we have in place here is for a project. It covers bridge preservation work in both Mifflin and Juniata counties. The original scope of work was that the original project, MPMS number 114303, was established as a Mifflin County project for Route 2004, section number P45. That has, there has been a concern that was raised about right-of-way needs for the preservation work, the bridge preservation work on Route 35, which in the amendment, Route 35 is actually in Juniata, and 2004 is actually in Mifflin. I'm just noticing that they are that they're reversed at this time. So because of the right-of-way interest and some permitting needs, the bridge structure on 35 will not be able to meet the October bid date goal, the planned bid date of October. And as many of you are aware, we're coming to the end of a TIP year. And with the end of the TIP year, we need to secure funds for both of these projects, but we ideally need to secure funds for the 2004 project that is being turned in and preparing for an October bid date. So the solution came down to separating these two projects, the Route 35 bridge structure and the Route 2004 bridge structure, into two separate projects, into individual projects. So the ask for the amendment is that the new project, MPMS 124255, be accepted by the board, and we make that the 2004 P45, which is preparing for a bid date in October. It is a transfer of federal fiscal year 2026 funds that expire at the end of September into the new MPMS number, and that we will be proceeding. We've already established, we already have a PS&E submission for final plans. We already have items and quantities. So we're confident in the numbers that we have established here for the construction phase, being both STP and BRIP/581 funds. So are there any questions for the amendment interest?
Any questions at all on the amendment as presented by Mark? Okay, hearing none, we would look for a motion to approve as presented. John, thank you for the motion. Do we have a second? Second by Jim, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Thanks, Mark, for running through that and meeting all those deadlines and timetables. I brought up here on the slideshow just the typical table we've been doing to show those major projects, over 300,000 or more adjustments that are occurring. And also anytime there's an amendment to get the one map link and Google Street View for folks. So that's what we're screen sharing now. And so some of the other ones that you'll mention here, Mark, are reflected on there in the top part of the table. So please, pages 10 to 14, things you'd like to highlight on the administrative modification.
Great, thank you. So we'll start off with the very first one there, and it is the PE preliminary engineering startup for 3 projects. The Juniata 22 resurfacing, the Clinton County 64 VRU that includes vulnerable road user needs for both Clinton, Mifflin, and Juniata counties, and then the Mifflin 8008, which are the 522 Walnut Street area ramps for access into 22-322 in the Lewistown area. Those PE starts are being advanced from the draft tip and moving forward with those. So that was that's a big step that will establish funds in the current tip and free up funds on the draft tip for adjustment later in October. So moving down into page 11, we see some adjustments here in the middle of the page there, adjustments for the Clinton County 220P66. It's a bridge rehabilitation project in which we had to adjust for a bid increase to meet the current project needs, $360,000 there. At the bottom of that page, there were some adjustments in fiscal year funds for the railroad safety warning device improvements at Walnut Street, Delaware Avenue, and I believe Kish Pike was also included in that adjustment to funds so that invoicing could be paid, and it also utilizes, as we mentioned, federal fiscal year 26 funding. Next page, on page 12, we had some balance due to de-obligations. These are funds that come back from federal funded projects that are completed. And let me see here. We had a cost savings at the bottom of page 12 for US 220 bridge epoxy project. We got a good bid on that, so we're able to move $290,000 back to the reserve line item, and those funds will be utilized for other projects. Coming down into let me see here. Top of page 13 was an interest that we had discussed previously. This is cost sharing between District 2 and District 3 on the SEDA COG tip. District 2 was unable to secure $488,000 of carbon reduction funds. So we offered that up and talked with District 3, and Chris King was able to identify projects of need and moved those funds from District 2 in Clinton County, Mifflin, and Juniata over to District 3 projects, and we'll be using those funds. So we have no lost funds left, no funds left on the reserve line item, and no loss of funds in federal fiscal year 26. And in the middle of page 13 there, we have a retroactive bridge reimbursement that is currently in process. They have funds going to the Belltown Run Bridge project, local bridge project. And scrolling into page 14, similar scenario for retro reimbursement agreement. Talked with Darren Stover this morning, and he says that the retro program is alive and well, and the agreements are in process and getting executed as we speak. That is all for page 14. Coming down into 15, we're moving into District 3's portion. So I'll stop at that area there.
Great, thank you, Mark. Any questions or comments at all for Mark? Okay, hearing none, I believe Preston Mosteller, were you going to cover the administrative actions for District 3, included on
Yep.
page 15 and ending at page 24?
Absolutely.
Great, feel free, thanks.
So to cover some of the major ones, we'll start on page 16 with Management Action 145657, where with this one, we're just swapping out the BOF funds on this for BRIP funds, or other way around. So that way we can use BOF for some other projects instead. Following that with Management Action ID 145658, it's just going to be a cash flow of funds between fiscal years. Scrolling down. We had for Action ID 145904 on page 19, it was a low bid adjustment of which we'll have money coming back to the reserve line. And then scrolling further down on page 22, this was a 146205. This was an administrative action for the interstate tip to increase the I-80 over SR 254 in the Limestone Run project. And then on page 23, we had the 146284 action, of which we did an administrative action for 25 to 28 funds. This was to advance the funding for the project. And those were the major ones, really. The rest have just sort of been adding the projects to the tip and just increases for the projects from consultants updating the cost estimates.
Okay, thank you, Preston. Quickly, Greg Molter's not with us, but a lot of times he would ask about the State Route 54 safety project in Montour County. Are you aware of things proceeding kind of as scheduled for that one thus far? The activity there? I know there's been some issues with traffic control, I guess, or detours, but everything else going pretty well?
I believe so. What was the section number?
It's the SR 54 corridor safety improvement in Montour County. The 54090.
I believe, yeah, everything is going smoothly for that.
That's a long-term, obviously, venture. You know, it's a couple of years
Hmm.
of construction activity there, but yeah, I was just curious how that's going, and maybe at a future meeting we'll request a more comprehensive update from yourself or Chris on that.
Yeah, we can absolutely get that arranged.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions for Preston at all on the modifications in District 3? Okay, hearing none, we have our typical listing of those projects that were previously approved or recorded by the MPO. Those are the local access road projects. So if there are decisions made by Appalachian Regional Commission for the most recent one, the town of Bloomsburg, Fort McClure Boulevard, we'll let you know as those are updated within this table. But that's the only other item within that section of the packet. So if you're okay, Preston, we will move along to the CSVT report, status report, item E, and we did update the slides and sharing the packet on Monday to include these updated bullets that are shown on the screen now.
So starting with the paving contract, they had the joint venture between Trumbull Corporation of Pittsburgh, PA, and Golden Triangle Construction Company for $186 million. Some of the key items that the contractors have been working on is that they've been continuing to place drainage throughout the project. They've been placing and grading subbase at the north end of the project. Work at the Sealands Grove interchange needed to construct new and realign existing ramps, and they've been preparing the concrete batch plant, which is scheduled to begin operation this month. The main line is still anticipated to be open to traffic in 2027 in the fall, and the Route 61 connector is anticipated to be fully completed and open to traffic in 2028 in the fall. For the ITS contract, the bids were open in mid-July of this year for a separate smaller construction contract, which will be to install permanent message boards on each direction of the CSVT southern section. The contract was awarded to Bruce Merrilees Electric for $2 million, and the initial work is anticipated to begin in next month of this year, and the ITS devices are anticipated to be installed as the highway construction proceeds through the fall.
Great, thanks, Preston. Any questions at all on the activities related to the CSVT project? Okay, one thing I'll just mention, I think it's in the staff report, but the end of June, I guess it was, there was the public meeting about the Ridge Road Restoration Project, kind of a related CSVT project with funding for the project for as traffic, will be diverted once the full completion at a higher level onto Ridge Road. So I'm not sure if you had attended the evening meeting or not, Preston, but the public officials meeting, there was good comments and questions from the township, from the local police and others about that. So as that continues to make progress, we'll share those updates here from the district as well for the design and bidding process for the Ridge Road restoration as well. Okay, if there are no comments, questions, we'll just segue right into agenda item F. That's our normal work program. Staff activity reporting starts on page 27. I'll just highlight a couple items here since we have later agenda items to dig into these at a higher level. On the bottom of that page, the 2027 TIP or 12-year program, we adopted that back in June, you'll recall, the region's transportation improvement program for 27 through 2030. Since then, now the state has reviewed it, all the submissions from the individual MPOs and RPOs and the state transportation improvement program was approved earlier this week by the State Transportation Commission. So those submissions have occurred to the Federal Highway Administration. And so as we move toward October 1st, that should be fully approved, acted on by Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit, and Environmental Protection Agency. And then we will update the sections here with the proper links. You can access everything there to consult that in the future as needed. And we'll probably see a flurry of activity on tip adjustments as we get into the new tip. If you don't recall how that typically works out, since there's some lockout and shutdown periods. More to come on that. And then there'll be a STIP, as they call it, planning finding, that'll be issued as well. So if there's any corrections or recommendations and best practices to be highlighted, we'll share those with the members. On page 28, just note the long-range plan. We adopted that for the region back in June, obviously, as well, at the June 12th MPO meeting. Those of you in the room, we have your hard copies. Other voting members, we can get those to you hopefully in the near future if you'd like to have the nice bound printed version of the long-range plan, but everything's been uploaded to the website. We've taken care of that. Kristen has addressed that. And so feel free to reference it as needed for any application rounds or other local planning processes. As we move into the fall, you'll recall the performance measures site that we use. And so Sam will be updating that again to track activity and performance measures related to the long range plan, safety and highway and bridge conditions, and also for system reliability as well and transit. So we'll see those updates occur a little bit later in the year. On the NEVI, or the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program, just wanted to highlight some activity there. The Eastern and Western rounds have opened for the community charging program, and the Central region will be next, probably in September. So we're looking forward to that. Approximately $3 million probably will be invested as PennDOT will contract out for the electric vehicle charging stations within the Central PA region. And we were contacted as part of that. I think news agencies were apprised of some of the activity or referencing some of the materials from PennDOT on it. And so there was a Spotlight PA article earlier this week. They had checked in with us and asked about our involvement and role in the program and some other questions of what it'd be designed to do. And so that was published earlier this week. We were glad for that. And Don's been continuing to connect with the Pittsburgh Region Clean Cities group and some of their activities, how they might get plugged in. So if you'd like to share anything additional about that, Don, or anything else for the electric vehicles, I wanted to.
Yeah, just one thing, the Pittsburgh group, it's called Pittsburgh Region Clean Cities. And they get federal funding from, excuse me, the Department of Energy. There's a comparable group over in Eastern Pennsylvania. And both of the groups have been supporting the grant applications, as Steve mentioned, in Southeast Pennsylvania. That's been open for some months now. And about a month ago, they PennDOT opened it up for Western Pennsylvania. So they're helping in grant writing and supporting these applications. And the Pittsburgh group is going to probably be doing the same thing with us, which we'll be really happy about. They have a mandate to support this kind of work, and that'll help coordinate things when that grant round opens up in September. So we'll be coordinating with them, and I think it's a good thing to be involved with them at this point.
Great. Thank you, Don. And we've been pleased to play a part actively, obviously, in this throughout, since we had the regional electric vehicle charging station study complete with our Michael Baker consultant team, and then the follow-up with PennDOT, our coordination and workshops. And as they move forward with this central region round, the priority locations that we as an MPO group and body had a chance to shape that, and we just did a little bit more refining of a couple of the boundaries for that. So when the funding announcement's released, it'll be given some weighted criteria and ranking for what the MPO has established as priority locations for these charging stations to be deployed in core towns and other major destinations in the region. Thank you. At the bottom of that page, 29 of the packet, later breaking news, and when we shared the packet, the Green Light Go program latest funding round announcements came out. And so we had shared that with the sponsors and county members. So Sean's with us today. He received that obviously because both East Buffalo Township and Lewisburg Borough were successful. We were glad to see that for 3 traffic signals on Route 15. We're approved for funding to update and modernize those and certainly facilitate the Buffalo Valley Rail Trail crossing that was funded under TA set aside. So we can shoot that a little bit later on here, the link, if you want to check it out, and we'll update the packet for next time. Some other awardees were in Lycoming County and Center County from the SEDA COG region as well. On to page 31, just wanted to mention as a preview, the US Route 15 corridor study is underway, and the Michael Baker consultant team is working with PennDOT District 3 on that, and also the planning organizations like Williamsport MPO and ourselves. Kind of focused between Route 54, Montgomery, and Route 44 in the Allenwood area, and existing conditions, being assessed, analyzed, and reporting. So as that study progresses, we'll share more and perhaps get a presentation. And then when it gets to the findings, make sure those are commented on by the MPO members and probably approved as well. Don, appreciate updating the natural gas cooperative item here. Is there anything you wanted to share about that for the members at all, or?
Not really. I think everybody from the counties knows it's in the process of being wound down. We're going to be dissolving the cooperative before the end of the year. There's some legal and procedural things that have to be done with it, but our natural gas board voted to support that dissolution. So that will be continuing on for a while. We just have to wind things up legally before that is finished.
Okay, thanks, Don. And while you have the floor, we'll just go into your LTAP section of the staff reporting, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm still going to be coordinating the LTAP program. And we're starting to get classes scheduled for this fall. So if anybody from the counties is interested or has had contact from your municipalities about hosting classes, please let me know as soon as you can. I did want to mention we have 6 of them that are scheduled for 5 of the 6 will be in September. There's some really good ones that are going to be hosted close by. The first one I wanted to mention is over in East Buffalo Township. It'll be on September 1st, and it'll be the active transportation for communities class. So Steve and I had coordinated on that our active transportation group thought it would be appropriate to offer that class at this point. So that's when it's scheduled. It's a morning session. Lycoming is also going to have a couple trucks on local roads and project estimating using math principles. Over at Ferguson Township in Center County, they'll be hosting a winter maintenance class and a public works safety class. And then Montour Township over in Columbia County will be having posting and bonding of local roads. That's on September 28th. And Steve, for your benefit, knowing that I was over in Freeburg Borough over in Snyder County to look at some of their bridges. Gina Moyer is signed up to take that class, so that will be helpful to Freeburg Borough, I think, too. The other thing I wanted to mention about LTAP, well, I guess 2. One is real quick. We gather together the numbers from all the classes and attendees and technical assistance visits when the fiscal year ends. So we've looked at the data for that, and last year the number of classes and technical assistance visits and the number of attendees went up from the previous fiscal year, which is a good thing. So I think some of our recruiting is paying some benefits. Twice a year, the PSETS group has a gathering of us who are on the advisory committee for LTAP. And we had another one in early June. And one thing that they are proceeding with is there will be a very new and interesting class, I think, called Municipal Bridge Maintenance. And that is going to be really oriented toward local maintenance crews who are responsible for performing some of the maintenance activities that they can actually do. So I think that'll be a very popular class for everybody that's involved in bridge maintenance in our counties. That probably will be offered next year. Won't be, I don't think, offered this fall yet. They're still in the process of developing it. But I'm sure I'll be mentioning that, and keep your eyes and ears open. So that's pretty much what we're doing this fall.
Great. Thank you, Don. Thanks for that great activity. And yeah, really a lot of municipalities take advantage of this through the training and technical assistance. We certainly, look to get additional ones, but if you review their findings, the recommendations from the technical assistance on-site visits and how they work with that, and just equipping municipalities, and as we get a lot of churn and turnover in the public works crews and staff and roadmasters, it's really great to have the LTAP, and for all you do for the program and for those special sessions with Penn College are always really great, the hands-on stuff. So we'll continue along with those in the future as well, typically are in the summer months when their instructors and their facilities are more available to us. I'm going to hit the screen share here. We have in the staff report on page 32 about the latest trail demand story map. So those of you who have been following along for the last couple of rounds, we have done 3 rounds of data collection on area trails and doing story maps in conjunction with those to report the data and nice visual means. And so I will load the 2025 report, which covers the Columbia Montour collection that was done for the former round. Working closely with Bob Stout on here and Lisa Doley. Their trails were covered, and also Columbia County as well. So we'll just kind of bring this up. I can scroll along, and then we're pleased to have Bridget on. The interns have been really involved with this, and obviously with Sam as well. So if there's things you'd like me to highlight as I scroll down, feel free to call it out. But we have available through here the prior editions. So you'll see a table up top, gives the 2024 demand report for Clinton County. Those were done along the levee floodwall in Lock Haven, and then the Bald Eagle Valley Trail. And then the first edition in Northumberland, Union County for the Dales Ridge Trail, the Watsontown Trail, and the Milton State Park. And now with the current deployments, which Sam was able to do in Mifflin and Juniata and Snyder, and again in Union County, I guess I forget the Overlook. Is that in Union County or Northumberland? I always have to remind myself. The Shikellamy State Park Overlook.
That's in Union.
Union. So another one for Union County coming for this current round that's deployed. So we have those available. You see the upper header tab, a little bit hard here with the transcript, sorry, the captioning. The introduction about why we're doing this, the data collection methodologies, some of the program results, more detailed analysis, next steps, like where the next wave of counting is being done, and then some of the program partners and links and references to them. So I wanted to give you a preview here now. Feel free to offer comments, edits for this. We'll share it after the meeting with the MPO members and obviously with the trail owners that might not be on the call here today. And then afterward, when folks are comfortable with it, we'll release it more publicly and publish the story map that way. So we have photos from each of the locations in the most recent round. As we scroll down in a little bit more about why we did this, the purpose of it, some of the methodology, the individual trail counters. If you recall, we have the TrafX models, which are a little bit more economical. They're less expensive, and so you can purchase more and deploy them more widely. And then the newer EcoCounter Pyro units, which are automated and you can access the data online through a website at any time and get alerts and all kinds of things coming to you. We have 2 of those that were on the Bloomsburg Area Recreational Trail and are still there. We're getting 2 full years worth of data. And then we purchased 2 more, which are out now on the Juniata Canal Trail, Towpath Trail, I believe. Or no, they're in Lewistown area on the Juniata Trail there.
Towpath.
The river trail. As we scroll down, then there's a little bit of snapshot overview about each of the locations that were counted. So starting off the Heft Recreation Area, Montour County, then the Hopewell Park and Borough Farm Trails. With that one, there's a notation here. There's a little bit of issue where the counter was taken out unbeknownst to us, so it doesn't have a full year's worth of data, but all these other sites will have full 12 months of data included. Then the Bloomsburg Rail Trail in Columbia County, followed up by the Bloomsburg Area Recreational Trail, the BART Trail. And then last but not least, the Berwick Test Track Trail in Columbia County with Jack and his team working to do a lot of nice enhancements there at the test track park. So then we describe the setup installation. You can see here a little pictures of the technology on these units. And then the results. This is where we get into the tables of the data and some charts. So it shows the average daily traffic, which can be pulled down easily with this information. The peak days, peak month, peak hours are all reflected at the snapshot level. And then if you come down to this section, for each of the location, you'll have a chance to kind of use these tabs in advance and see then individual charts produced through Flourish. And they'll show the average daily traffic by month chart, and then a little bit of bullets on the highest usage month and the lowest, as you would expect. Wintertime and summertime is typical for those. Other charts, just briefly, we get into the weekly uses charts and breaking those down with the averages and the highest single week. So first one up here, the Hess recreation area. You can see that was back in August, and the lowest in January. The next chart covers the day of the week and the splits there with the percentages. And then we have the traffic by hour. And that's the last one for each of these areas. I won't go through each of those. But at the bottom, we talk about just some signature things related to the count program and some of the initial analysis. So you can see the Bloomsbury Recreational Trail had a very high average daily traffic, 165.5 uses per day reflected here. So a lot of usage for that new ARPA funded trail. Then a little bit of acknowledgement of those trends, what you would typically see. And when we come back, maybe in future years, we can see what kind of variations there are over time for these locations. That'd be our intent. So with the current round, we'll have touched every county as part of the MPO. So hopefully at some point in the future, return to these for some comparisons. And then we're always looking for new candidates. So if there's locations you want to see counted as members, feel free to forward those off to us. We'll keep them on the running list. And once we get maybe this established, we could do shorter periods of time to collect the data as well, rather than keeping them out for a full year, so we can scatter them around the region more. Just some more charts within the story map and comparisons across each of the trails that were counted. You can see here. And then the next steps, like I said, that now our cycle is down in Mifflin, Juniata, Snyder counties, and the additional one in Union for the overlook trails of the Shikellamy State Park. And a bunch of other links and resources for partners and kind of getting people oriented to where the next collection round is. I think we coordinate with all of you as we were working on those as MPO voting members for your region. So we profile those as what to expect next. And then our partners and links and resources here. So Sam or Bridget, anything additional you want to cover or mention to the members?
Pretty much hit everything. I'd just say, should say thanks to Dr. Byler and Bucknell for their continued support with all of this. I know they use some of the data here for projects that they're doing over there, additional research on bike ped programs. So thanks to them, thanks to Bridget and our previous intern, Cole Van de Vanter, who really helped bring this thing along. Feel like for the most part, the story map's pretty intuitive and pretty easy to scroll through and use for the users. So, but as always, if anybody has any comments or anything like that, whether it's for potential trails to be counted in the future or how we could improve it, we always appreciate input from all you guys. So, yeah, I think you just about covered everything, Steve. All I have to say, maybe Bridget has something, but.
Great, thanks, Sam. Yeah, we're glad to offer this service, and like we've been hitting, if there's additional points you'd like to see represented or data collected, any kind of facilities, whether they're, short trails, segment trails, long distance trails, other facilities, or maybe more urban areas even as well. Been working really well. We're glad for all the partnerships so far. And again, we have 10 total counters now available as part of our resources. So thanks, everyone. We'll stop sharing this story map. We can share it again, like I said, afterward. And then if there's maybe give folks 10 to 14 days after that, maybe we'll get like a social media notice and advertise it more widely to the public.
Steve, this is Bob. That's super helpful information. I really appreciate that you guys put that together. I think Lisa Dooley walked back and forth in front of the trail counter on the Bloomsburg Trail like all season long and drove up her numbers. But other than that, it looks pretty awesome.
Great, you're welcome. Yeah, we get alerts with that one, so I would check with her sometimes when it said about no counts, but I think it was just due to some icy conditions in the wintertime. But yeah, thanks. It's been really a pleasure to be involved with this and appreciate the commendation. Nothing else. Otherwise, in this section, we just have our typical updates on the TA set aside, status reporting. If there's any additional comments from anyone associated with those or from the PennDOT districts, yeah, feel free to write in right now. I'll just pause a moment. Okay, if not, we can reflect the 2025 round approved projects going forward in the future, get those added, and as there's milestones established with those as well. Then we have the highway occupancy permit and traffic impacts study application activity included on pages 37 and 38. So any questions or comments at all about what we've covered from the work program activity reporting? Okay, hearing none, we'll move right into agenda item G, and that's the aforementioned PennDOT truck parking initiatives presentation. And Robert Pento will be sharing this. I think I have the PowerPoint loaded up here, Bob, so I'll go ahead and hit the screen share if that works for you.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, sounds good, Bob. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason the phone decided to disconnect me a couple times, so if I happen to drop off, please bear with me. I'll dial right back in. Sorry for the awkwardness of the slides here. So again, my name is Bob Pento. I work in PennDOT Central Office, Bureau of Operations. I work very closely with folks in our planning deputate, Jessica Clark and Mike Reimer. Maybe they had participated in past meetings. They had asked to see if I was available to give you an overview of kind of PennDOT's current truck parking activities, and I'm happy to do that today. So we can jump to the next slide.
Thanks. Yep.
Yep. So I think that should say USDOT safety priorities. So I'm just going to hit a little bit of background. Some of this, if those of you in the meeting that are very familiar with this issue, some of this may be repeat. But for those of you who are not, and again, this is listing as USDOT safety priorities. But really, I mean, these are priorities for PennDOT as well. This is kind of the background of kind of why the emphasis. Why there's such an emphasis on this issue, and this is kind of a whole culmination of a number of issues that have exacerbated this ongoing, long-standing issue nationally. The FMCSA kind of tightening up hours of service requirements, as well as requiring the use of electronic data logs, kind of increasing accountability for drivers, combining that with limited areas for parking and the fact that, kind of most warehouses don't allow trucks to overnight after they either pick up or drop off. So that's kind of pushed many drivers to look for areas to park that would be considered unsafe, both for other users of the roadway, just from a hit fixed object possibility, as well as for the drivers themselves. There was we reference here Jason's law. This was a federal law that was passed after, unfortunately, a truck driver that had parked at an unsecured location was robbed and murdered a number of years ago, and so it kind of created some federal laws for reporting and encouraging the state DOTs to explore and report on the status of truck parking capacity within the right-of-way, safe capacity, and that's something that all states are reporting on. So that's really kind of the background on this big national emphasis and push for increasing truck parking. So next slide.
Okay, yep, it's up.
So. Yep. So as I've said, this has been an ongoing issue. The department's been aware for a number of years. In fact, there were 2 studies that were completed by the Pennsylvania's Transportation Advisory Committee, kind of the initial one in 2007, and then we've done an update to the data in the report was completed in 2023. Really, really kind of re-emphasizing the importance and the need to look for opportunities. Kind of the message coming out of the initial report was really that any real solution to this issue is really going to have to be done in partnership with both government and private businesses. However, since in the last year or so, there's been a big push within PennDOT to look for opportunities that we can really leverage areas within our right-of-way to add capacity. I'm going to talk more about that here going forward. So next slide. So I'll kind of jump through these somewhat quickly, but this is just to highlight that as part of these studies, there was a lot of detailed review of current utilization, actually going out and looking at both private truck stops as well as our public rest areas, welcome centers, and looking at to what percent each of these locations were being utilized for parking. Next slide. As well as aligning those locations with priority corridors. So really looking at the corridors, the interstate segments across the state that really we're seeing the highest volume of truck usage, and trying to align that with the areas of where we have available truck parking, both public and private, and kind of where the highest areas of need, and coming up with like a ranking system where we actually scored and identified kind of where the highest areas of need are and where we should focus our resources. So next slide. So that culminated in, as part of the 2023 TAC report, to a tier 1 and tier 2 list of priority corridors, kind of the areas that are showing the highest amount of need, and really the areas where we wanted to, if we were going to make capital investments in expanding expanding either rest areas, welcome centers, or building new areas for truck parking, these would be the areas that we would want to focus on. Primarily, these are the areas that we would really want to seek out public, if there were, to an extent, public-private partnership opportunities, areas where maybe PennDOT could act as a facilitator to try to bring forward and facilitate investment from the private sector in building new capacity. These would be the priority areas. So again, this is directly out of the 2023 report. So next slide. So there's a number of recommendations. I just kind of wanted to go through these from the TAC report to highlight. Again, there's no one solution to this. It's going to have to be a partnership with private industry, and as well as not only building new parking capacity within the right-of-way by public agencies, but also looking at opportunities that this can be addressed through local ordinances and land use planning. So again, these kind of broken down into different categories: cost of real estate, availability of appropriate sites. So a few of these that going through that I've highlighted: repurposing state-owned surplus property. That's an area where we've really focused on in the last 12 months, and I'll talk a little more about that. But really looking for ways that we can work with our planning partners and encourage them to kind of integrate truck parking into regional economic development plans, and making sure you're raising the issue at the local level, so residents and businesses understand the importance of this. Hopefully we get some less pushback and people recognizing that the trade-offs if you don't have sufficient capacity, you're going to be encouraging kind of like this illegal parking and potentially an economic hit for your area with affecting development. So next slide. And again, recognizing that there are quality of life concerns, residents always have concerns with additional truck traffic in their area, and the potential, if you're expanding parking, is that going to kind of exacerbate that problem? So there are some national best practices that communities can implement. And again, like I said, educating residents about the importance of truck parking. This isn't an issue that's going to go away. It's a complicated issue. But we're starting to see some innovative solutions and innovative ideas that are being implemented nationally. There's recently been a private service that has, I think they're called the Truck Parking Club, where it's actually allowing private landowners to utilize existing space, maybe within their lots, to allow for truck parking. Kind of Airbnb, for example, for truck parking is kind of what I would liken it to. So you're starting to see some, and that's parking. Of course, there's a fee associated with it. So you're starting to see some innovative solutions that are coming to the fore, and I think you'll see more of that. But certainly, parking within public areas public right of way is going to continue to be a need as well. I highlighted here, address truck parking in county and local comprehensive plans. I know York County, our planning deputy deals more with traditionally with our MPOs. I kind of work in traffic operations, but I know York County has, as part of their freight movement plan, has really kind of addressed truck parking and highlighted it as a need. And we're certainly going to be working and supporting our planning partners as they look at truck parking as a regional issue, and how can we address that through regional projects as well. Next slide. So I think this should be 3 of 3 of recommendations. A couple things that I have highlighted here. One of the recommendations was for Pennsylvania to develop a truck parking handbook, trying to compile all of the national guidance, best practices that are out there, available funding opportunities, compile that into a handbook. I believe Federal Highway is pulling some information together now that we want to leverage, and so that's my understanding, is our handbook is waiting the completion of this federal information being pulled together before we'll finish up our truck parking handbook and get that issued for use. And again, so as I mentioned, integrate truck parking into regional planning. We have designated an executive sponsor or an executive lead for truck parking. It's the head of our planning deputate, but as I said, I work in highway administration in our traffic operations area. We work very closely with planning on this issue. We have implemented a task force. Private stakeholders, including the Pennsylvania Motor Truck Association, participate on that task force, and we meet regularly, and we're really kind of tracking the implementation of these recommendations and how are these things moving forward, and kind of working with the stakeholders to make that happen. So that's ongoing. So the next slide, I'm going to get into the issue of truck parking expansion in the right of way, kind of what PennDOT is doing. The Secretary about a year ago really had really encouraged and challenged all of PennDOT, our engineering districts, and our central office staff to really look for opportunities within the right of way that we could leverage some in the short term, some of them recognizing it was going to take longer term investments to expand opportunities for truck parking beyond what we already have, our rest areas and welcome centers. You know, where can we really look to leverage areas, you know, whether this was kind of construction in fields, as you see here in this picture, areas where maybe we were used previously for construction staging, that would take kind of like very little improvement or a small investment to get it to the point where we could formally acknowledge that it's legal for trucks to park in these areas, you know, all the way up to other areas where we have excess right of way, but it's going to take a capital project to actually do the earth moving and paving to create a parking lot. So that's been kind of the focus of our work for the last number of months here. Next slide. So what we've done, kind of based on that recommendation of repurposing state-owned surplus properties, is really look at we're calling it kind of 4 tiers of locations in the right-of-way, and we've asked each of our engineering districts to go through all of their roadway network and look for these opportunities. Kind of the first tier we were looking at was interstate on-ramp locations. So again, not off-ramps, because we, you know, recognize that those are the areas where we feel that that's the highest safety concern. You know, you have trucks exiting at speed, so of course we really don't want to encourage parking in the clear zones in those locations. But on-ramps, where we have a section that's, you know, where we have sufficient width. It's straight enough that you don't have a severe curve where a truck is extending out across the edge line. We're not parking underneath bridges for fear that there would be a fire and damage the structure. So we had some specific criteria established to help the districts kind of screen and identify areas along interstate on-ramps where we thought we could formally acknowledge that parking was safe. And admittedly, recognize a lot of these areas parking was already happening. We just wanted to look at, okay, if we're going to acknowledge that, let's at least take a look at where do we feel it's the least risk, and we can actually install some signing to try to limit the parking and just to those sections where we felt it was appropriate. The next tier would be way stations. So these are the areas that we have had for a number of years in various interstates that were typically gated and closed, and they were used by state police and the Public Utility Commission for size and weight enforcement and MIXAP, Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program operations, safety inspections. As I said, you know, these in the past had traditionally been gated and not open for parking, but it's kind of become more of a national trend in other states where these areas are being left open and encouraged for trucks to use. We had done this for at least a few years now as a place of refuge during winter storms. If trucks didn't get the word of a commercial vehicle restriction in advance and they kind of needed somewhere to pull off quickly, we have been leaving these open. Now we're formally kind of making this part of this program. And again, adding some signing, and I'll talk a little bit about the signing, to try to control the access to help ensure that when law enforcement and the inspectors come out to do MIXAP operations, there's an area that's left open so they can use it for enforcement, and that's been a bit of a learning curve, and we have ongoing coordination with state police, commercial vehicle safety division on how to manage that. So, and you know, if we to try to manage the need for truck parking with a need for ensuring they've got a safe and open space to do this important MIXAP operation work. The next tier would be kind of low to medium cost locations. So some of these are areas where it's just going to take some signing, maybe some minor surface improvement, up to areas where, and some of this could be this could be park and ride lots where in the past we hadn't allowed commercial vehicles to park overnight. But if we have if we have the area and it can be done safely, it's something that we can allow. We're now updating the signing in those areas as we go forward to allow for that. Others are going to take more investment up to a capital project, and some of these we may be looking for opportunities to piggyback on roadway projects where we can kind of work in the construction of a lot in the right of way where those opportunities are there. It's certainly eligible for federal funding. Including federal grant opportunities that we're aware of and we're exploring, and trying to line up these potential capital projects in the future with these grant opportunities to help fund truck parking expansion. So next slide. If you hadn't seen these, just to give you a quick shot, this is the signage that we've developed and are actively working now to deploy. For the interstate on-ramp locations, we wanted to identify kind of a beginning and ending location where we wanted to limit the truck parking. Beyond those locations. So with these signs, it gives PSP the ability then to go out, and if they want to, they see a need to enforce if anyone's parking outside of these areas. We've a clear indication of where it's legal and appropriate. We are going to be limiting parking on shoulders, and limiting it to not during snow. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I thought someone was trying to get my attention. I'm sorry. Limiting it to not during snow and ice conditions, because obviously we need to keep those ramps open during winter storms for snow pushback operations and maintenance. So, and then all other locations, again, just kind of trying to identify beginning and ending areas where it's appropriate for parking. So we limit it to those areas, and we don't kind of affect traffic flow through way stations or the park and ride lots, those types of locations where traditionally we haven't allowed truck parking in the past. So next slide. So internally, this isn't a public-facing site, but I kind of wanted to give you a sense of we're actively tracking as the districts, based on the locations that we've identified as they're installing the signing and officially opening up new locations for truck parking. We're tracking those. We've made a commitment by the end of 2026 to add up to 1,200 new parking spaces within the right-of-way across the Commonwealth, and we're making great progress towards that. At this point, the last I checked in our tracking, we have opened up a total of 583 new sites at 62 separate locations across the state, and we're on track to, by the end of the calendar year, again, to open up that 1,200 new spots. There's many are in progress now, and again, it's maintenance is actively working on this along with their very busy maintenance schedule with other activities. So it's challenging to get this done, but it certainly is our goal, and we're making great progress there. Next slide. Lastly, just wanted to highlight what is public facing. We've added a layer on our 511 PA traffic map on our website for public truck parking. So as these sites come online, we're adding the logos here, and we'll be able to indicate whether that site is either opened or closed. If for some reason we have to close it because there's adjacent roadway work and we have to restrict access to some either rest area or welcome center or whatever it is, at least we can indicate there that site, the capacity is temporarily closed, but that's going to be included and updated actively as part of, along with the rest of the data that we push out through 511. So that was probably a little quicker than maybe we we were expecting. I don't think anybody's too upset about that, but I certainly can take any questions anyone has at this time. As I mentioned, I kind of come at this from the traffic operations perspective. But certainly our planning deputate is very involved, and part of that is really looking for how can we leverage capital projects going forward to help address this issue, and as well as supporting our planning partners as you work with us on a regional level. So
Great, thank you, Bob. A lot of great information there, analysis, and just curious if there's questions from the group, and then maybe from the county planners or municipal planner folks, maybe how you're dealing with this issue at all in any zoning or subdivision land reviews for parking, for commercial truck parking as well. So any questions, comments, or anything to weigh in on?
Steve, I've got a
Yeah,
couple
Don,
of
go ahead.
things. Steve mentioned a long-range transportation plan, and we looked at this issue as part of our work there. So we got a little bit of a in-depth dive on some of the things going on too. And two things I wanted to mention is, as Bob probably knows quite well, there's research and development going on at the national level from private companies to allow truckers who are out on the road to get in-cab notifications or even message sign notifications, perhaps about upcoming truck parking areas and how many spaces might be available, just like you see with parking garages sometimes. So those things are in development too, which ought to help the situation quite a lot. And just to go back to LTAP for a minute, there is a class called Trucks on Local Roads, Issues and Solutions, that addresses and covers some of this. And it's especially of interest to local municipalities to deal with trucks who are in growing numbers getting on local roads for deliveries, or maybe trying to find a place to park in the last mile areas. And so there's a lot of overlap from what PennDOT's efforts are and what this LTAP class is. And this class is going to be on September 22nd up in Montoursville, up in Lycoming County. And I sat through it last year, I think a couple of times, and it's a really good offering, very good content with it, and very timely for people that are trying to address this from local municipalities. So if you have any interest in that, I can help get people signed up, but that'll be offered then and probably repeated again later on quite a bit.
thank you. It just kind of just wanted to expand on your remarks about the technology, about providing that information on space availability. There are some other states that have implemented like corridor-based or regional systems to monitor public lots and to provide information on available capacity through their dynamic message signs, through their 511 systems. We looked at that. We've really heard from industry in Pennsylvania that their priority for investments would be adding capacity at this point. So that's really been our emphasis. We may look at those opportunities in the future as we get more capacity updated and added. But right now, kind of our focus from a resource standpoint has really been kind of adding the additional spaces first, and then down the road we may look at kind of like these travel information technology types of services.
I guess maybe while we have you, Bob, are there anything with the autonomous trucks or anything else with like the connected technology that you've been looking at or evaluating as part of the commercial trucks and vis-a-vis the truck parking?
I guess as it relates to truck parking, not so much. We're aware that there are these services. We work with for example, there's a vendor that works in Pennsylvania in partnership with the state police to provide way station, they call it electronic pre-clearance or bypass services. So truckers subscribe to this service. The one company I'd mentioned is DriveWise. So that when a trucker approaches a way station, if they subscribe to the DriveWise service, if that way station is open and enforcement's out there, when they enter a geofenced area within that, approaching that way station, the drive-by system is notified, and it automatically kind of pulls data down from the US DOT database. It looks at safety records. It looks like it out of service data, and it makes a determination. Essentially, should that truck be issued a bypass order so it doesn't have to pull into the weigh station, or should it pull in? And it kind of helps law enforcement manage the traffic and the capacity of their operations, kind of so they can focus on kind of the most likely offenders. And so that service is operating in Pennsylvania now, and they provide these in-cab alerts to trucks about the bypasses. We're working with them now for those subscribers that they can get additional information in the cab through their DriveWise account on construction restrictions, or if there's a major crash or incident, they can receive those alerts through their in-cab system, and possibly down the road, truck parking may be something that could be incorporated into it. The state police just had a commercial vehicle safety symposium in State College Wednesday of this week, and they had one of the autonomous vehicle vendors, Stack AV, that works out of Pittsburgh, came in and gave a detailed presentation and kind of talked about kind of where that technology is going. That was very interesting. So not sure if anybody was able to see that, but they kind of highlighted the PennStart facility out in Western Pennsylvania in Westmoreland County, where they do a lot of their testing. So a lot of interesting technology, and definitely encourage something if the board would be interested in the future. I'm sure we could set up a presentation. It's another area of PennDOT that kind of deals more with that.
Gotcha. Great. Thanks. We'll do one last round for any questions or comments for Bob.
Yes, I'll
Yep, sure, gotcha.
say something. I didn't hear, maybe it was mentioned, maybe not, how this is being paid for in the front end, especially where they have to do capital projects, and then what's the long-term maintenance impact? Is that going to be competing for HIP funds, or are there special funds in Harrisburg to address this?
Did you hear that okay, Bob?
Yeah. So this short-term work, it's really been limited to installing signing. If there's minor surface improvements need to be done, it's all work that PennDOT County Maintenance can do, and that's how we're addressing this kind of these short-term additions. When we get to these longer-term projects where it's going to take it's going to take some physical construction beyond what maintenance can do. It's my understanding we're going to be looking first at, are there capital projects that we could piggyback on? There's a roadway project upcoming that we could just add this into the scope of it. The federal highways encouraging the states to leverage federal funds, whether it's through kind of regular roadway projects through those sources, or there are as well grant opportunities. So I know we've got a handful of grants that we're looking at, and I think that's something that we're going to be working with planning on. Once we have kind of the projects clearly identified and scheduled, how can we align that with grant opportunities and look to kind of take advantage of that as well. There's other costs associated with the maintenance as well. There's a need to look into some of these locations, temporary bathroom facilities, trash collection, and those are all things that PennDOT Maintenance is looking into now, and looking into kind of how can we fund those going forward.
Steve, if I may, this is Mark Schultz with the District 2. This is a conversation that is occurring on our every 2-year interstate priorities update as we recognize project needs, looking at bridge improvements and roadway improvements. So truck parking is a conversation, and truck parking is actually identified as a line on our interstate priority needs. It continues to be a conversation, I should say. So thank you.
Yeah, it can be pretty costly ventures, like we all saw obviously in Eastern Columbia County with the truck parking there in District 3. So Sean had an additional comment.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as the municipal and county level in this region, I think your municipal officials and county commissioners are gonna say this isn't their problem. It's private sectors, and if these companies can figure out how to get something to your door in 2 days delivery time, they can figure out the truck parking on the private sector side as well. And be putting some money into it.
Understood. Thanks. Great. Thanks. Well, for where we are on the agenda, I think we'll segue to the next one. But Bob, we really appreciate your time and thanks for sticking around and presenting that.
Thank you.
Take care. So next we're at item H. I'll just give a real brief overview here and ask you to kind of check out the fiscal year 27-29 work program that we've drafted up and allow maybe up till August 31st to give us any recommendations, comments you might have. But every 2 years we update the MPO's work program. We have some guidance materials in here. It was issued by the state back at the end of July. So we have now the action procedures and other guidance from PennDOT that's been released to all the planning partners. There's a slide show that kind of went along with that is included in your packet. So essentially, the work program identifies the main tasks and deliverables for the region, who's going to complete them, what the timelines are related to them, and certainly budgetary and cost splits with the federal, state, and local matches included. So there's some more background about the overview document there in those slides, but I won't really say too much about those other than just on the funding side. Supplemental planning studies are something that's been entertained in the past. Most recently, it's been kind of more focused on those PennDOT Connect related initiatives and studies. But you'll see there in the slideshow, it identifies for years 1 and years 2 how that process will work out. So all the planning partners can submit special detailed studies, whether they be corridor studies, interchange studies, other things to link transportation and land use or economic development. Those come with a 20% non-federal match requirement. And so if there's things that anyone's been chewing on at the local level that you'd like to submit for consideration, feel free to let us know on those. There's an option now for PennDOT to kind of use its statewide open ends as part of that. And if there's room or capacity within what we kind of set aside for our line item for consultant work with the 2 firms we have on open end, we can consider that as well. But these funds are distributed based on the formulas you'll see there within the slideshow, population, vehicles, miles traveled, lane miles, transit ridership, and so forth. The main funding sources come the planning dollars, metropolitan planning dollars from U.S. Department of Transportation, and then the state with PennDOT's motor license fund for part of the match, and then local funding for all the different task areas that are described. We tried to consolidate, a few years back, and so as you get into the work program, starting on page 52, we have 3 main task buckets. So the plans and programs, data tools analysis, and then the administration of the work program are what we define there, covering all the regulations and requirements and other local initiatives that we tailor and customize from the base tasks and actions that are prepared by PennDOT. And then we have LTAP. It's kind of a core program for us, obviously, but it's put in there in this supplemental section. That's actually 100% federal funded with how Pennsylvania handles that. And the same with the increasing safe, accessible transportation options or complete streets priorities. So those do not require any local match. From the draft program, I just wanted to mention a couple things that are highlighted in yellow for either draft mode or things for maybe you to focus on as you take a look at this. On page 58 is where we note the 12-year program findings. So we'll incorporate that newest one when it comes out from the Federal Highway Administration. If there's any things to highlight there that we should take a look at or change in our processes. On page 59 is where we show supporting partners planning activities. So some of those things are holdovers and just want to put that out to your attention. Yep. Obviously all the MPO members, the county folks, PennDOT, if there's initiatives, over the next 2 years, you'd like to see the MPO engage on or support, we can call those out with specific bullets here, within the background section. And then we could also pick them up, further on in the actual individual task, but feel free to take a look at those and weigh in. And then as we get into the like coordination on page 10 or page 62, we have set up a meeting with PennDOT and Federal Highway Administration for August 18th to have a coordination and review this as well. We'll share information with all the transit operators and the Federal Transit Administration for input. Come October 9th, we'll revise the work program for your review and consideration as well. And then at the November meeting, the last meeting of the year, is when we look to adopt, because it must be approved by the end of January next year. And the November meeting is our final one for this year. So that'll be what we'll recommend, the final version of the work program for approval adoption on November 20th. So again, there's a lot in here. Obviously, there's a lot of things we call out, the activities we're working on, various partnerships, and things that go above and beyond what the base procedures and tasks are from PennDOT and Federal Highway Administration. We talk about tasks that were completed in the current one, which won't wrap up till June 30th of next year. So some of those things are foreshadowing within here. And then to identify some of the major tasks that would be in the 27 to 29 period, starting July 1st of 2027. Just scrolling through quickly. There's no budget items by task 1, 2, or 3. Just we'll have to define that based on the allocation and the pro rata. We'll have that for next time. But we do have the LTAP. That'd be the kind of standard over many years now, $35,000 for all the activities, involvement we have in LTAP, and some of those special workshops that we put on with our vendor at Penn College and otherwise. And then the increasing safe, accessible transportation options, we call it S3, supplemental 3, starts on page 81. And so that's $16,000 a year that can be used toward things like the active transportation plan update, complete streets policies, updating for the MPO or for local governments. We call out some other things there. Potential for vulnerable road user assessments or bikeability, walkability audits as well. So if you have other ideas on those, we can call those out for things that could be using those funds. And then the S2 plan update and support, we just wanted to line up some potential uses for the consultant teams as well to support major plan updates or some special analysis and studies. So with that being said, please, take a chance to review it. Maybe by August 31st, that will be our recommendation. If you have input on any of those local initiatives, any studies to pursue, any tasks you want to see us refine, feel free to let us know by August 31st. We'll get that revised in plenty of time for the next MPO meeting. So any questions, comments about the next work program and the elements included there? Lincoln, yeah.
On page 59.
Yes.
It was 40 partner planning activities. They called out US 522 and US 15 roundabout studies. Are there any, is that a standalone or are there standalone studies that I'm unaware of, or is that basically stuff that was in other studies that are just being reviewed and kept in mind?
Yeah, that was like a holdover from the last program. We weren't sure just to delete it because I think what happened with the Route 522 and the local decisions and approvals that would have been needed for that to continue. So in case it was something where it might be able to resurface, we didn't want to necessarily take it out right now. But if all the parties said, we can strike that one, and if it returns, we could, address it otherwise. But we wanted to note those things that were looked at in prior studies, like the Route 522 improvement study and like the Hogan Boulevard study in Clinton County, more detailed analysis to kind of give those some credence within this work program and how we'd be engaged on them. But that was just kind of reflect those efforts. And we know there's additional interest in other roundabouts within the region to be deployed. So we can modify that though, if you'd like.
I guess my only comment on that would be, depending on how long the stuff stays on there, obviously we know that supervisors change every few years and all that kind of stuff. I'd like to see that stay on there. Just because of that, hopefully thoughts change and we can maybe move forward. I mean, I know Kristen and I met out there with PennDOT and we all think it's a great project. You know, hopefully that can come to fruition. And I think if we remove it here, the likelihood of that occurring is gonna go out the door.
Sure, yeah. Thank you for the input. And yeah, if there's additional county local plans that you think are likely to kick off over this period of time, we can obviously on the fly just respond to needs that emerge and different plans and initiatives that are funded, but feel free to let us know if there's other things you'd like to see called out. See anything in the chat? Anyone online or anyone else in the room for questions, comments at this time on the work program? If not, we'll bring that back again, like I said, in October, and then we'll look to get recommended adoption in November, and then get all the other submissions that need to occur after that, and the agreements within PennDOT system, and that'll take effect for July 1st, 2027. Okay, I think I'll hit the screen share again here for item I. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth of resources here, and there's additional links on the Federal Transportation Reauthorization Update, but this link is on our website. We'll share the presentations in the ticker afterward as well. But I will go through from our National Association, AMPO, the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations. They've been doing a lot to assess and analyze surface transportation bill activity within Congress. And so we have tailored a little bit of their presentation here that I'll just distill a little bit. Screen sharing, okay, we'll go to the next one. So just touch a little bit on kind of 101 on transportation reauthorization. So level the playing field, perhaps. Some of the elements within what the U.S. House has at least moved forward on, the Build America 250 Act. Where we are right now in the schedule, we're getting toward the end of the expiration of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which expires September 30th, but we'll touch on some things there on the calendar. Some of the key aspects for our region and for MPOs nationwide, and then some of those funding opportunities that are available to MPOs to apply for or use with the locally designated funding. And we'll conclude with some next steps. So just a quick slide here, reauthorization 101. So typically they're 5 or 6 year bills that Congress passes for surface transportation. It allocates the funding levels, talks about different programmatic interests and objectives the federal government has, and policy provisions for highways, public transit, bridges, safety, planning, and so forth. It doesn't cover aviation. That's separate legislation that Congress passes related to aviation. So again, I think it's typically every 5 years. On the recent bills like IIJA or bill, going back further and been playing along the FAST Act and MAP 21, Safety Lou, T21, ICE-T, all these nice acronyms that we've used over time. It's written by the House and Senate committees, primarily the transportation infrastructure in the U.S. House, and also you need to get into things with appropriations and tax, with Ways and Means as well. And then on the Senate side, there's separate committees involved. So again, it is important to local and metropolitan planning organizations in terms of establishing federal priorities and policies, and the funding, as we note there at the bottom of that slide, looking at the current, TIP funding, roughly $57 million annually in federal formula funds is what we receive under the current federal transportation bill for our region. So substantial. The Build America 250 Act, Congress kind of taken off of our sesquicentennial or 250th anniversary, I guess, and naming it this way as the Build America 250 Act. But the mouthful was building unrivaled infrastructure and long-term development for America's 250th. So again, current bill expires September 30th, into this federal fiscal year. There's a lot churning and a lot of activity in Congress. Obviously, they did pass the housing bill. I think most of you probably saw, but there's a lot of other things on their plate with mid-year elections coming up, midterm elections. And so general consensus is that we probably will not get a full 5-year bill through the Congress and approved by signed by the president in time for September 30th. So there's probably going to be an extension. But this bill includes 580 billion, almost 581 billion over 5 years, 4% increase. Most of the funding is generated through the Highway Trust Fund, so the taxes that are paid at the pump. But the general fund covers, as you see there, $107 billion as well. It's becoming more important as vehicles are getting more efficient, more people are using electric vehicles. And so there's been a lot of kind of transfers from the general fund to cover that. And the current House bill does propose electric vehicle fees at the federal level as well. We do have in Pennsylvania, but federal electric vehicle fees to help make up some of those gaps. So this bill that the House is working on is kind of recalibrating things. Obviously, the bipartisan infrastructure law had a lot of discretionary competitive grant programs. I think we're aware of that and the array that was populated there. But this is going to pull that back to like 90% of the authorized funding and the formula programs that are allocated based on various criteria for the states and regions to work with. And about 22% of the total federal funding is what's available, to local and regional entities. The timeline, the House, like I said, they were the first off with the activity here, and then their markups on May 21st kind of had a marathon session. The House Transportation Infrastructure Committee did approve its version of the reauthorization, the Build America 250 Act. It's still awaiting activity by other committees and has not been, on the full House schedule. Senate side, there's been no companion bill released yet. So, like I said, it's highly likely there'll be an extension. This won't be addressed on time by Congress. So we'll see whatever a 3-month extension maybe or something different. What it means for our region, again, look at that funding, nearly $581 billion over 5 years. Breaking out here with the federal aid program, the bridge, some additional investments there in the current act. Discretionary grant programs, $35 billion. Those would be things like Safe Streets and Roads for All, Infra Grant, Protect or Resiliency Program, and so forth. And then there's some federal lands and tribal programs funding there we note as well. And big picture, the highway funds, like I said, most of the funding returning to formula funds, getting away from kind of the concentration of discretionary grant programs in the current law. The wins for metropolitan planning organizations and the federal planning funds, they're actually seeing the largest increase of any of the formula programs for those PL funds, as they're known, growing by 9.7% in the first year, fiscal year 27. There's a new thing they're proposing, like as a direct recipient. Some MPOs can become direct recipients rather than, going to the state and then directed down to the MPOs and the RPOs in Pennsylvania. And a big one there, rather than 80% federal match, to go to 90%. So the local match be reduced to 10%, which would be a savings to planning organizations. And just on the watch list front, there's some changes here, some programs that be removed. I'll talk about a little more later on. And also the consolidated funding pilot program, kind of like a block program that the states could use, and then the MPOs would need to be consulted. So the Metropolitan Planning Funds, like I said, 22% increase over the 5-year period as it's currently worded, and that 90% versus 80% federal share, which will help. There's some increased expand eligibilities. So main one I see here, like preliminary design activities, could be covered by these planning funds. That's always been a little bit of a gray zone or difficulty if you're doing any preliminary engineering or design work. And again, that direct recipient option to get the funds directly from the federal government. That was RM. The bridge formula program, we'll see increases noted here. Safe Streets and Roads for All continued, which is good. There was a lot of questions as to whether that would be encompassed in the new transportation bill. So that would be in there again for those safety action plans and implementation or demonstration dollars. Several of you either in the room or online have been connected to Safe Streets and Roads for All grants, so we're glad to see that included. And this new Surface Transportation Accelerator Grant Program, kind of similar to those big nationwide competitive grants like Build or Raise or Tiger that we've heard of in the past. Potential funding opportunities, again, the direct or the sub-allocated planning funds that we receive and what is encompassed in our work program, like we just covered. That Surface Transportation Block Grant sub-allocation, Transportation Alternative Set Aside is continued again, so we're glad for that. And that's where obviously we review, recommend to the state, see a lot of great investments occurring. Safe Streets and Roads for All again, and MPOs are eligible as applicants under that program. That'd be about $500 million per year, roughly. Next, what to watch. Again, some eliminations or rescissions. The carbon reduction program would be ending as currently worded. So we had some things in the tip modifications earlier on, and that's been going to some energy efficiency projects and things that can help to reduce emissions. They'd still be eligible under like the CMAQ for those areas that receive those dollars for air quality improvements, but that's not applicable to our area. And just to move in a couple of modal summaries here briefly. Active transportation, like I said, the TA set aside would be continued on about 1.6 billion a year. And the recreational trails program as well. That in Pennsylvania, if you don't know, DCNR is the one that receives and allocates those recreational trails program funds, but another main funding source for trail projects and active transportation. Would eliminate the active transportation infrastructure investment program that was new in the IIJA bill. A lot of environmental aspects to that and reducing emissions. Micro mobility and e-bike safety. There's some new commissions, new studies called for. And you see the federal study on micro mobility safety in children, as those are emerging and being deployed more widely. Some accelerated or more efficient permitting and project delivery elements. And then crash avoidance technology and detection for cyclists and pedestrians. On the public transit side, some of these aren't applicable to area. It's more in the major urban areas and the funds that they receive for public transportation. But it does consolidate some of the federal transit block grant programs and things that do get doled out to the state and then sub-allocated. And then passenger rail side of things proposes some changes in restructuring and governance for Amtrak and some of these grant programs like we learned in the current bill, the CRISI program. That's also been pursued by short line and regional railroads as well. Not just for passenger rail safety, obviously, but for other elements. And the grade crossing safety program would be continued, about $3.65 billion. Those are funds that are statewide managed, but our region has received a lot of those in the past, especially on the Joint Rail Authority system. Again, like I said, to speed up some of the permitting processes here, and it would allow MPO planning analysis to be used to eliminate some of the alternatives from detailed impact statement considerations. And I'll just wrap it up there. These links should hopefully work for you all to click on. There's a lot of great resources with what AMPO's been monitoring and tracking and putting together on the legislation. And so feel free to check those out. As it progresses, we'll share more information. If we get a companion bill from the Senate, we'll provide those details. But again, most likely not to be acted on in time for the current expiration. So we'll probably just see an extension of the current programs and funding levels, most likely. And I know Jeff shared some links earlier. Did you want to touch on anything else before we open it to anyone else? Jeff Eisman?
Yeah. we were in Washington, D.C. with some of our policymakers and got to meet a few of the had a few meetings. So I know that this was brought up, some of the issues we were interested in with Senator Fetterman's office and a few other members of the congressional delegation. But yeah, I think it's a good time for people, whether it's your personal or whether it's your organization. I know some people you have to walk a fine line with your advocacy, but Pennsylvania received a lot in the last transportation reauthorization for roads, bridges, highways. You have transit vehicles like the 5310 that they use for people with disabilities and seniors, Amtrak. But yeah, as Steve mentioned, we have until the 30th. At this point, most of the Pennsylvania delegations supported the House version. Senator Fetterman's staff indicated that he was supportive of protecting the investments. They didn't get into any particulars, but yeah, and Congress is going to be home most of August. So if you can get any appointments with your local members or the U.S. senators, now's probably a good time over the next few weeks before Labor Day, although you could probably go do the first few weeks in September too. Thanks.
Great. Good. Thank you, Jeff. Any final comments before we, oh, yes, go ahead, Leah or Lisa.
It's okay. I just have a quick SEDA COG standpoint at the MPO. Does the MPO hire Jeff for a consultant, or is Jeff like open for county and municipalities to utilize in the area?
Jeff, I think your advocacy is for anyone statewide. Is that like to engage with, right? Jeff's just involved as interested party and has been from some of his prior role with the MPO and participates in other planning organizations across the Commonwealth. So would you like to comment on that, Jeff?
Yeah, that would be a separate offline conversation if you were looking at something. I tend to focus on, because our organization has an interest in disability perspectives. We do convene a group. I mentioned earlier, PA Transportation Alliance meets bi-monthly. We send out updates on that. And the group has a broad array of stakeholders that participate. We get folks from the transit agencies, consumers, disability organizations. But if you wanted to email me separately, we could talk about something if you were interested.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, we'll move into item J, just real briefly on the Active Transportation Committee. Next meeting is on August 19th. We were pleased to get a guest presentation from Helena Catala of Pennsylvania Environmental Council. She's going to talk about the gravel cycling activity throughout Pennsylvania, how that's increasing, and more groups and tourism bureaus and everyone else interested in gravel cycling, and also about the Activating Route 6 project. So a lot of you received those directly, those notices that has gone out now, the agenda for that August 19th meeting. If not, let me know, and we'll make sure you have the credentials for that. The outreach and implementation work groups will meet in October. And the main thing I want to mention, our active transportation plan update process. We've been working on that with the consultant team, Catherine Wild, Brian Funkhauser, and others from Michael Baker International. Early activities geared toward public engagement. And so things like an online survey coming together. We'll look to do listening sessions in the fall, stakeholder interviews, and try to get to a couple pop-up meeting events to promote the survey as well. So Catherine, I didn't want to steal anything additional from you, and I would turn over to you for what you'd like to cover. And I do have the Wikimap site if you want me to share, or if you have that open up, feel free to screen share that as well.
Sure. I'll share my screen here if it'll let me. Can everyone see that okay? The flyer or no?
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So as Steve mentioned, we're working on many public engagement activities. The first one will be coming out next week. You guys are getting a preview. We've developed this flyer here, and as you can see at the bottom, we'll be launching the survey on Monday, and it'll be open through September. This is for everyone to provide their feedback, and I'll show you the survey tool here in a minute. These flyers will be available, I believe, if anybody would like some. And then we also have a social media graphic that I believe SEDA COG will be sharing out. And then, of course, you guys could share as well on your social media platforms. Let me just reshare here and make sure we're getting the Wikimap component. Here we go. And then once this updates, can you guys see the map now?
Yes.
The survey tool? Okay. So this is the Wikimap tool. We're still doing a couple final tweaks, but when folks click on this, they'll see the about the map. It gives them a little overview of the process, and then they will also be served this survey that we've worked to develop and ask some questions to follow up on, some data to collect here, and some more information if they would like to reach out specifically. Once they complete this component of the survey, they'll be given access to the mapping. You can see we've added some sample items in here just so you can see, but this will be cleared out and folks will be able to add a point for whatever they'd like. If they know the safety concern in their area, they can drop a point, they can zoom in, and so on, and we'll collect data. It does allow points outside of the boundary too, so if there's anybody over towards the State College side that wants to call something out that goes over the boundary, we can have that information as well. Plenty of information over here, adding points, and it does prompt you. I'll just place one as an example. It gives some ideas for issues they might be seeing, and then of course they can add whatever they'd like. It also allows for folks to add a thumbs up if they see everybody is posting about one particular issue. They can just thumbs up instead of adding a point for every concern over and over again. So that's our big push right now, is to launch this survey and get some responses. Like Steve said, we'll be sharing at the Active Transportation Committee meeting in 2 weeks as well, and doing some pop-up events, hopefully come September, October timeframe. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, thanks for demonstrating that, Catherine. And we'll, like you said, we'll get all the promotional stuff starting to go out Monday, and appreciate any connections you have or any marketing members can do on that as well. We'll hopefully generate a lot of traffic there and some good input coming out of it. We'll also we have a social point page dedicated to this as well, and have these linkages and some other information on there. So thanks for pulling that together. Anything additional you wanted to share at this time?
I don't think so. I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions or concerns.
Great, thank you. So more to come on Monday, going live with the surveying activity, and we'll send out some reminders during that period, most likely as well. And midway or toward the end, there'll be some reminders go out, but look forward to the comments and input coming in. Thanks, Catherine. Our last main agenda item before adjourning is the member forum, item K. I think I'll just hit one thing here, the Pennsylvania Wildlife Connectivity Work Group. We have the news release there and information, and they've done outreach to us on that for kind of that strategic plan for the state on wildlife crossings and safety. And most likely we'll be receiving more, and Kristen will be participating in that process for us as an MPO, and having a chance to weigh in on that, and some new mapping tools and other strategies for the wildlife crossings program. And the Rail Freight Assistance Program, we have that notation in there for any shippers or railroad entities can apply for that. And I think the last thing I want to mention was the functional classification review we've been talking about. We did our submissions to the PennDOT district offices in mid-July, and hopefully by the end of August, we'll have a chance to review any commentary that comes back on those, and then share final recommendations to PennDOT as part of that process. And we'll get that information out to the members, and mapping and everything when that's finalized as well. Anything from any of the members that you would like to share before we just maybe give Preston a chance to talk about the I-99 corridor and the signage and blazing there, press release that was in the packet? Anyone from in the room or online before we ask Preston to cover I-99?
Yeah,
Okay, yes,
I
go
just
ahead,
wanted to
Jeff.
mention something I put in the chat. Some of you may have heard. Amtrak is adding an additional route between New York and Pittsburgh, which will obviously go through Lewistown. It should be this fall or early winter, later in 2026. So, which I think that'll be also great for people with disabilities once the Amtrak station is fully made more accessible. Glad for the progress there, but I thought folks might be interested in that. So thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. And Preston, maybe just a 2-minute on the I-99 designation. That's okay? If he's still on. Okay. Well, hearing none, press release is in there in the packet. And then we also have on the new statewide funding, $775 million over the next 2 years that will be deployed. And you'll see kind of those county allocations or percentages listed there. A lot of these would be shorter term paving projects, things that are essentially ready to go, or some box culverts. So that kind of came out of the state budget that was recently adopted in that process with the General Assembly. So look for more updates on that as it comes together and getting those additional state funds out on the street. So I know we're right at a little bit past time. So anything before we were to adjourn? Hearing none, we'll look for a motion to adjourn, reconvene October 9th. Thank you, Sean. Second to Lincoln. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Thanks everyone for being with us, and sorry for some of those connection issues, but we'll be back together October 9th. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hey, Steve, can you save the stuff in the chat?
Can we see it? Yes.
Can you save it?
Oh.
Great.
I'll try. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that works. Anyone? Was it automatic with the recording? No. Okay.
Copy and paste.
Okay. I have to do that. Right click. I think Kim has that meeting starting up, but those of you that are staying for the county planning directors meeting, feel free to take a break or any refreshment you need. It used to be, you used to get a log, it would come out, but I don't know if it does anymore. For the chat, it would be like its own text file or something.
I tried to see what was in the chat.
Okay, I'll
It
just
could
do,
have been pilot error, but I couldn't see anything.
okay, I'll just do a copy. And Kristen, I'll put the Bob Penta presentation out on the.
Okay. I'll upload it. And do you,
Steve, there's a, in the meeting chat window, there's a button that says export chat.
Let's see, where is it?
You have to go into chat.
I hit the chat, yep.
That's for Central Teams.
Teams.
Oh, this is registration.
Oh, you're still, oh.
Yeah. Where do you want these, Steve? Where in particular?
You can just send them right there if you want. Yeah.
Let's see.
I copy and paste it in the Word for now, so that should hopefully do. I'll hit leave and then recording should be all right. Thanks, Ken.
you want me to
Hey, Dawn,
follow up
who's teaching the class in Buffalo on September 1st?
with Justin on the East End,
I can see it on my phone.
the amendment,
Um,
because I think Mark said that there was,
County.
the counties were wrong.
Yeah, just an email thing. Being edited.
I can send it
before we go actually.
Just didn't want to, I don't want to submit it
Right.
and then it get kicked back.
Yep. No, that's good. That's sure.
Like, they'll drop off some business for that.
it's big hot topic. It has multifacets to it. It's really. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, we'll do this.
The active implementation.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, usually it's Marvin or Pat, one of those guys, huh?
It won't be Pat, I don't think. He's still out.
He's having, okay.
Hey, it's Dawn. How are you? Hello, hello. How are you? So good to see you.
Semi-retired, so you just have to put semi in front of everything.
Right. Please don't ask me to do another thing. I'm semi. Hi, Dawn. How are you? Good to see you. Well, I don't, I have. Hello, how are you? Okay, because I have to log in the next meeting. Are you staying, Steve?
Yes.
Okay.
We're just trying to get our.
Alrighty.
Get that stuff done. Then we can, have. We're going to do everything. They're already putting some of the documentation together, so it's going.